Traveling the Vortex. Side Trip.
I'm Shaun.
I'm Glenn. And we decided we'd do something a little different this week. Put out a little side trip. Shaun and I actually read Prisoner of the Daleks, which was the
October
Traveling the Vortex book club on Goodreads book of the month. And so we've been trying in an effort to keep up with the book club and follow through and do some reviews. Shaun and I read this one, so we thought we'd give our thoughts on the podcast.
So here we are.
Do you have a synopsis?
A really long one on Wiki.
Then never mind.
I will condense. Prisoner of the Daleks by Trevor Baxendale. Dun, dun, dun.
That's a good summary. I like that.
The Doctor encounters some bounty hunters. Turns out they're all Dalek hunters specifically, and he seems to have jumped a time track into a slightly not quite our universe version of events, and he has foreknowledge of things to come regarding the eventual Time War. What will be, I assume this is kind of leading up to the Time War. Maybe not specifically the Time War.
I think you're
Maybe
right.
It's just one of the wars with Earth.
I think you're specifically. Well, I think you're right in both accounts. I think this is one of the wars with the Daleks for Earth. You say a different universe. I don't even think that's true. I think somehow he has skipped a time track. He's still in universe, but he can't figure out why this has happened, because this should be time locked, because it is part of the events of the Daleks. But I think you're right. I think it's some foreshadowing of the Time War with that may also be going on now with the Time Lords, but also on more of a microcosm level, the relation to the war that Earth has been having with the Daleks as well. So I think you're right there in both accounts.
But he hooks up with some bounty hunters who are Dalek hunters. Absalom Dack was not among them. I was a little disappointed
I was
at that.
a little disappointed myself.
Felt like a missed opportunity, really. But they capture Dalek. Long story short, they wind up falling into a trap and become prisoners of the Daleks.
Should have been prisoners of the Daleks, but I'll let it slide.
What'd you think?
I liked it. It's not the greatest story I ever read, but I really like Trevor Baxendale's writing, and I think he crafts a fine story here as well. I really liked the girl. I can't remember her name. I want to say Sarah, but that's
Stella.
Stella. I think
one,
that's right. Yeah, I really liked Stella. Of course, then we lose her very early in the book. But I think it gives the characters motivations for what they do. It especially gives the crew motivations for what they do, and their distrust of the Doctor so early on. Especially since they find him trapped on this planet, and he pretty much comes along with what happens to them as far as being attacked by that one Dalek that attacks them, that ends up killing Stella. I like the relationship between the captain and the Doctor, and how they've kind of got this frictiony relationship. And the Doctor doesn't quite trust him, and in fact, there's many times that he and who is the strong guy?
Scrum or Cutting Edge?
Cutting Edge. He and Cutting Edge at various times blame the Doctor for being in this situation, which you find out rightfully so later, because it's a trap for the Doctor. And then so Stella's gone, and then
yes and no.
Yes and no.
It's a trap for the captain.
Oh, that's right. It is. Yeah, you're right.
Because we find out during the course of the events that Captain Bowman is actually Space Major John Bowman, and he's a very important figurehead in Earth's military, who apparently dodged it after a couple of battles and just decided he wanted to do nothing more than kill Daleks and didn't want the responsibility of leadership.
Well, I think at one point we kind of get the impression that the trap was being led for the Doctor, and then that's kind of the surprise later on is that the captain has a different past than we're led to believe.
And the Daleks are very happy to have him captured, and so and then it comes as quite the reversal when the Doctor is going, no, you want me. Trust me on this. You want me.
I kind of like the Briar Patch moment with the Doctor, saying, well, you'd need a TARDIS for that. Because my first thought was, why would you give that information?
I had the same reaction.
So yeah.
What are you doing with? Oh, that's a trap. Okay. Clever doctor.
But I think it's well devised in the sense that they were able to put the TARDIS away and it not be an escape mechanism for most of the story. And then the Doctor tricking them to go back to get the TARDIS, I think works really well, because a lot of times we've groaned about especially sometimes in the 11th Doctor era, where the TARDIS ends up showing up and being kind of the fix for everything, as the sonic screwdriver does sometimes. And I think we've always kind of reveled in the stories that put the TARDIS away, where you unaccessible for some amount of time, so that you don't have that easy fix to go back in time and do something. And I liked how he did it this way, by taking them away from the TARDIS, getting captured, and then tricking him to get back to the TARDIS. Although the TARDIS doesn't end up being the fix either. It's really the teamwork when they're going down to find... What were they going to find? I can't remember what they had to go back down into the...
Initially, they were there to find fuel, and then the second time...
Oh, the key.
The key, yeah.
Which he had all along as well. And, did you at the one point when he said he's can't find the key to get into the TARDIS, when they finally get back to the TARDIS... Did you at one moment go, wait a minute, I swear he put the key down when they were taking stuff out of their pockets to find out what they had to get out of the... I swear he laid the key down there. So my initial thought was, well, I know where you left the key. It's in the cell. You had left it there. But it wasn't until I realized, well, he had pretty much tricked them into bringing him to the TARDIS that, oh, yeah, I bet he still has the key on him and he's just faking it. So.
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say now. It completely flew away. Well, you had said something that triggered something, and I wanted to mention it.
Who's the other guy? Cutting Edge and what the younger Scrum. That was another one. They kill off Stella. Then they kill off Scrum. And then, it's one thing after another. But I think that it's painful that you lose these characters that you really grow to like, each one of them. It's a testament to the writing, in the sense that you barely get to know Stella, but you know enough about her that you feel bad when she dies.
Yeah.
Same thing with Scrum. Same thing with eventually with Cutting Edge. Spoilers if you haven't read this book. Sorry.
By the way,
but as they step through each of these characters, they really draw you into their character as they develop them and make you really fall in love with each individual, even Captain Bowman, which gets this wonderful, revelation of who he finally is. And then the noble sacrifice he's about to make at the end. Not to mention the cat-like woman. It's been so long since I read this book now. I'm relying heavily on you to look these up.
What was her name? I keep wanting to say Talia, but it's not Talia. It's Coral.
Coral, yeah.
Koral. Coral.
So, and not to mention Coral, who I think is sort of the character that I got to know least throughout this, but works really well that she's kind of a mystery through this, so that when they develop the idea that her and the captain are actually, in love with each other, I think it works better that way, because I think if we'd have gotten too much information about her, Cora, we would have got...
Could have lost that reveal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That would have worked.
She's the character you get to know the least, but in a way, she's probably the character I enjoyed the most. I liked the fact that she was just this, BA Catwoman with claws that could rip open a Dalek.
Yeah.
And she was a good hunter and all of these things. But yet, and she comes to, she initially is in the position of, if the Doctor moves wrong, breathes wrong, lies to us, right, she's going to rip you open. And you believe it.
Right.
But then she kind of comes to not quite trust, but she at least believes in the Doctor. And she's maybe kind of helping sell him to the rest of the crew.
Well, that's just it. She seems to have more faith in the Doctor.
Faith maybe is a good word.
Than anybody does through this whole thing. And she's really kind of that bond that keeps him from getting too deep in trouble with the crew.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which that's the other interesting thing. When I'll be honest, when this started, I got, I don't know, maybe even all the way up to about halfway point with this, and I wasn't sure I enjoyed it. I mean, it was a fine story, and it was okay. But you've got this relatively unlikable gang of bounty hunters, and then they capture a Dalek along with the Doctor, and we're fresh on the heels of Stella dying. at this Dalek's hand, or suction cup, or ray gun.
Right.
And the doctor's there and involved. And so half the crew is blaming him, and the other half is just not wanting to talk about it. And so they get in their head that they're going to torture the Dalek.
To get information.
Right. And even I, who have no love lost on Daleks, even I was a little squeamish at, oh, really?
It's a bit unnerving, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to go. And the doctor, obviously, because he's the doctor, is like, well, you can't do that. You can't do that. And there's a part of me that's going, sure they can. Leave them alone. And there's another part of me that's like, no, you're I don't want to see this. I don't want to read this. So you've got these unlikable people doing unlikable things, and you kind of run through this whole gambit all the way up to the halfway point. And I was like, I'm not really sure I like this. But then the Daleks show up en masse and become the heavy.
Right.
And now it's everybody banding together to fight this threat, and all of a sudden it was like, yeah, these guys are cool, these guys are awesome, these guys are this. Right. And I found my enjoyment level really ramping up, and I'm kind of glad that we went through this difficult period initially, because it allowed me to get to know them. It was a completely unconventional way of doing it, because they're not heroes. They're bounty hunters, right, basically. Right. They're cutting off eye stalks and bringing them home to get paid.
Right.
Which I thought was a really great
That's the thing is, the first half of this book's almost uneasy, because there's this friction between the crew and the doctor. As you mentioned, the torture scene, and the doctor just being completely adamant against that kind of thing, and and berating them for doing it. And I agree that at the point where you really everything starts to come together. Especially, I think it's the cell. It's the scene with the captain and the doctor in the cell, and they start to have the conversation. And they finally have that one moment where they both laugh. So I don't remember what was said, but they both kind of have that moment. And it's almost at that point that the doctor and the captain finally become, a team somewhat. So
disagreeing about how to do it, but at least realizing they may be on the same side. The point that I wanted to bring up earlier that I had forgotten is you were talking about when the TARDIS was taken away. And this is one of those that it wasn't necessarily a contrivance, or because I'm always shocked when the TARDIS is ripped away from him suddenly. Right. And it's not just that we have to get back to it. It's just, the TARDIS fell out of the bottom of the airship. The TARDIS is floating in the ocean. The TARDIS has been blown into space.
We'll deal with it later.
We'll deal with it later. Yeah. And so in this one, it's the TARDIS is there. And it's on the planet, and it's safe, and we're running, we're having an adventure, and we're getting on your spaceship and flying away from the planet. What are you doing? Because this isn't just, I left it the next town over. Right. This isn't just, it's somewhere on Earth. Right. This isn't units going to pick it up in a helicopter. No, you left the planet in another ship, like at warp drive.
Right.
Okay. And I'm just... It's weird that the TARDIS affects me that way, that I have this unreasonable
You've left her.
attachment to it. Because it happens all throughout Classic Who. They land, they step out, you never see it again until the final episode. But for whatever reason, it's just...
Even when it falls off the cliff in, what was it, Paladin? One of the Paladin stories?
Curse of Paladin.
Paladin. Step out of the TARDIS and it falls off a cliff. I know what you mean. I kind of thought the same thing. And in the back of your mind, you're going, you can't just leave the TARDIS.
So what do you think of Dalek X?
I feel... I kept thinking in my head, this feels like something that's been done before. But... in a way, it's done in a clever, almost Himmler type character. He was the head of the SS, right? Yeah. So it's almost done in that way. So
I think
while it felt familiar, it also felt different. It was almost like merging the not controller Dalek. That's a Cyberman. The command Dalek.
Dalek Supreme.
Dalek Supreme. There you go. Melding that with one of the Cult of Skaro types, where there's that manipulation or that strategy thinking, that kind of thinking outside the box, not thinking like a real Dalek. Although then eventually he gets kind of duped. Which kind of falls back into typical Dalek form. Right. The whole manic, can't see the forest for the trees mentality of the Daleks. But I thought it was good. It was a nice fit for this story, and I thought it worked pretty well.
I was torn. This is a silly reason, but when they announced that the Exterminator is the name of the ship that is ferrying him. My first thought is automatically, I don't think the Daleks name their vessels.
Yeah, it's a bit kitschy.
that's an Earth thing. It's a sense of pride. It's a sense of unity. It's a sense Daleks would think it's irrelevant. This is, what do you call this? Killing machine number 7.
Yeah, it's just to them. It's just a tool. It's just
So that right there is like, all right, I'm going to allow it because
Sure.
you've entertained me so far. And then the what was it? The Dalek Inquisitor General is his official title. Earth forces call him Dalek X.
Right.
And he's apparently second in command to Supreme. And he's a very fearful Dalek. And I'm just... okay.
I think why I'm okay with it, though, is because we have hierarchy within the Daleks. We have the Emperor. We have this Dalek Supreme. We have the, So, to me, it was just another level that we hadn't, explored
I suppose
before.
There's that element to it. I mean, just the idea of
Inquisitor General. Yeah.
That to me almost says like interrogation, torture specialist,
right.
Possibly even judge.
Sure.
And that seems a weird dichotomy of Daleks society,
right?
To need this.
Well, that's why I think that I sort of meld that with the type of Dalek being the Dalek Supreme with the Dalek Sec where it's a Dalek that has a specific purpose and different than just your average Dalek. In order to because they're going to have. It's almost like that. Did you read the War Doctor novel, Engines of War?
Mm-hmm.
They had the strategist Daleks. It was almost like it was another layer of the Daleks that you don't generally get in Dalek stories, because it always seems like, even though there's a hierarchy, it always seems like the Daleks are always very two-dimensional. They're just there's this one-dimensional idea or action. And to introduce something like Dalek X, I think that works a little bit better because it gives another layer or another level to the Daleks. And I think maybe that's what I liked about it.
As it went on, I liked him. Well, I didn't like him, but
But he reverts to type eventually.
He does. He becomes megalomaniacal, screaming
in
a tank.
Exactly.
Who's tricked?
Right.
And it's kind of like, which I don't know. We talk about the Master having an MO, and the Daleks certainly have an MO. But it's, I guess, in a way, kind of refreshing, because I don't know if you could beat them without it. I mean, the moment the Daleks figure out that they are their own worst enemy is the day that the galaxy falls.
Right.
Because there's nothing left to fight them with, other than a bigger gun.
Which I think is what works to ratchet up the... layers of the Daleks and give us something a little different, because if it's that just normal every day that the Doctor defeats every time, which we know he's going to defeat the Daleks again this time, that's the way it happens, but to ratchet it up to a different level and give us something unique and different, I think that kind of works. And it worked for this story as well.
So, like I said, it was an enjoyable read, and I really like Trevor's style. That's what carried me through a lot of the beginning part when I wasn't sure I was enjoying the story. And then we got into the second half of it, and I did really wind up enjoying the story immensely. But the first half was a little rough.
I think the one scene that I'm not sure that whether I liked or didn't like, but I wasn't sure if it was even necessary, when the Doctor goes back to the planet where the explosion is, and Dalek X is still alive, but like barely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like the Doctor gloats over the fact that, that Dalek X lost, and that he's going to have to live with this forever because he's not dead. He's still living, and his power cells are going to sustain him. But it almost felt a little undoctor-like. But it made me kind of wonder if this is placed in. Obviously it's placed when the Doctor's traveling alone, and we have that, the ego Doctor, that we had in Waters of Mars and that kind of thing, where he was. You have a name for it that he always say, Time Lord.
Time Lord Victorious.
Victorious, yeah. And so it almost wonders if that. I almost wonder if that scene is kind of meant to hint that there's that element of the Doctor still there, because you don't get any of that really in the rest of the story. But he shows up there to gloat. He doesn't directly gloat, but it feels like he's gloating over
he does. He lets him know, hey, by the way, you guys not only lost the stronghold where you were at, you're in retreat across the galaxy.
Right,
Earth forces
right,
have rallied.
right.
Just wanted to let you know.
Right.
Oh, by the way, it's been 5,000 years. You're still not dead.
Right.
But the radiation here is going to keep you around for a little bit. And, Dalek X basically says, I'm going to find you. I'm going to hunt you down and find you. The Doctor says, bring it. I'm ready.
Right.
I'll be waiting for you. And you're right. It's kind of that touch of the specials, dear Doctor.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I don't know if it was meant to be.
Is it Trevor giving him a way to cement the fact that he could bring back Dalek X at some point?
Could be.
Further story.
It could be that. I don't know if it was meant to really enforce the Time Lord Victorious aspect, or if it was maybe meant to kind of give us what was supposed to be a satisfactory feeling of the reader gloating because Dalek X was so despicable and horrible
Exactly,
and evil.
and I think that was my other point I was going to. Was that a service for the reader, which I think you're saying then.
So I could see it kind of going either way, because I think it kind of works both ways. But I agree with you. It's kind of like, I didn't know that I necessarily needed this.
Yeah. But maybe some readers did, though.
The moment you trick him and Dalek X does something stupid, I kind of be like, ha, stupid Dalek.
That's good. You got your comeuppance.
But
yeah, no, I quite enjoyed this one. I'm glad I read it. It's a Dalek story, so I knew going into it I was probably going to enjoy it. But there are some stinker Dalek stories out there.
I liked it better than Deep Time, which is another Trevor's.
Yeah. I liked Deep Time okay, but yeah, this was certainly much better. You said it before, but I really like his style of writing.
So.
All right. Well, there you go, readers. Well, readers and
there
listeners.
You go, readers.
our take on Prisoner of the Daleks, and I think what we're going to try to do is do some more of these as side trips, so that we can kind of give our reviews on the books as we do the book club from time to time. So I guess look for another one.
And just as a reminder that this will come out, it's still November, so the November book is In the Blood. I don't have the author off the top of my head, but that one is still available, which is a 10th Doctor and Donna novel. And the poll is up. I don't know if it's been decided yet or not for next month. I don't believe it has been.
I don't think
they finalize.
I don't think they finalize
it
until December 1st. Or November 30th, I suppose.
If you're hearing this and you're not a member of the book club, obviously go to Goodreads and sign up for it. It's run by some very, very good friends of ours from the Five-ish Fangirls podcast who moderate that for us, and we're very thankful for that.
Especially Holly, who I think takes the lead on that from month to month.
And we get together and we read a Doctor Who book every week. And of course, there's a comment page. If you know how Goodreads works, there's comment pages and message boards and all that kind of stuff, and you can find some new friends and talk Doctor Who. So this is just kind of the audio version of that, because we wanted to try and tie the two a little closer together. And it was difficult when I was in school and not able to read things, and now I'm able to read things. So I'm like, yeah, what's next month's book? I'm ready. Bring it on.
Well, it helped me reach my Goodreads goal for this year, so I've tipped over now. So, of course, all the reading we've done this year is...
I feel a little bad looking at my Goodreads, my goal, and it's all Doctor Who, Star Trek, and graphic novels.
What mine looks like, too, yeah.
That's what I'm reading this
well,
year.
You know what? As long as you're reading.
I've got one Stephen King book in there. I normally read novels. I'm just catching up on other stuff.
I've got... I've blanked on his name. Stephen Fry's third autobiography in there that I read. I read Ready Player One this year, so I got mixed up a little bit.
Couple legit titles in
there, yeah.
With your young adult stuff.
A few non-Doctor Who novels in there.
But anyway, so go to Goodreads and give it a try, and you can find the links on our website and as well. So, Thank you once again to Holly and the gang for doing that, and I think that's it.
Let's wrap it up. All right. Well, until next time, I'm Glenn.
I'm Shaun.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.